Birds of Prey has featured far more heroes than most fans remember, but not all of them survived DC's constantly evolving continuity. Over the years, the team welcomed skilled fighters, overlooked vigilantes, and unexpected allies who seemed poised for much bigger roles. Some became fan favorites, while others quietly disappeared after reboots, editorial shifts, or changing team lineups. Today, many readers barely remember they were ever part of the roster. So, which Birds of Prey members were erased from DC continuity almost without notice? Here are 9 Birds of Prey members who vanished from continuity. At number 9 is Zinda Blake. Originally debuting in 1959's Black Hawk issue 133, Zinda Blake was a time-displaced 1940s ace pilot who eventually joined the modern squad as the team's dedicated wheelman and heavy-drinking brawler. Lady Blackhawk provided a brilliant tactical and tonal clash. Oracle's hyper-modern, stealth-oriented cyber espionage contrasted perfectly with Zinda's analog grit, shotgun-wielding tactics, and boisterous Golden Age bravado. That all came crashing down when she became a catastrophic casualty of the massive 2011 Flashpoint reboot. While the New 52 maintained a fractured version of the team, DC editorial completely erased Zinda from existence, dumping her history into a permanent continuity black hole. By locking her in the vault, DC lost the team's best source of levity and sisterhood. Zinda was the essential glue that kept them grounded. Her continued absence in the modern Dawn of DC era highlights a gross mismanagement of the team's logistical operations. Every single covert squad needs a reliable extraction expert, and quite frankly, nobody did it better than Lady Blackhawk. This foolish editorial oversight truly damaged the entire comic line by tossing away an absolutely magnificent character. At the 8th position is Charlotte Gage Radcliffe. Introduced in issue 96, Misfit was a chaotic, teleporting teenage metahuman who organically evolved into a phenomenal surrogate daughter for the Covert Squad. Her tragic roots as a homeless orphan supplied the overarching narrative with a deeply profound emotional anchor. Meanwhile, her erratic, high-energy teleporting abilities perfectly disrupted the team's otherwise clinical, highly calculated espionage field missions. She brought a necessary unpredictability to the sisterhood. Then came the sprawling 2011 line-wide continuity reset. DC ruthlessly severed Charlotte's deep ties to the Vigilante network. She was unceremoniously scrubbed from the active roster, briefly relegated to an unrecognizable background cameo, and then permanently abandoned by decision-makers. Discarding Misfit wasn't just erasing a character, it callously deleted a vital phase of Barbara Gordon's character development. By throwing her away, the publisher deprived the modern squad of a genuine powerhouse and erased one of the best mentor dynamics in comics. It remains a profound failure of corporate management that deeply hurts the lasting legacy of the team. At number 7 is Ev Crawford. Debuting in the 3rd volume's premiere issue under Dwayne Swierczynski, Ev Crawford instantly became the standout sensation of the 2011 relaunch. As Dinah Lance's initial recruit for this fresh continuity, this heavily tattooed, gun-toting mercenary injected a cynical, remarkably grounded edge into the narrative. Starling willingly handled the unsavory dirty work, making those early storylines undeniably gripping. That momentum was completely derailed by corporate inconsistency. Once the original writer departed, Ev was hastily shoved into a widely criticized betrayal plot involving Mr. Freeze before being abruptly discarded. When subsequent restorative publishing initiatives arrived to correct previous mistakes, editors inexplicably tossed Crawford out entirely, refusing to even acknowledge her existence. She represented a magnificent modern addition perfectly aligned with the squad's covert mandate. By choosing complete erasure over a compelling redemption arc, the publisher tragically squandered one of the most uniquely flawed, genuinely captivating anti-heroes introduced in the entire contemporary comic book era. This baffling decision ultimately deprived fans of an exceptionally compelling operative who truly deserved so much better. And if you think DC only abandoned standout solo operatives, the next Forgotten Bird proves editorial also tore apart one of the team's most unforgettable partnerships, costing the squad far more than just another member. At the 6th position on this list is a massive ex-KGB operative known as Kriote. First appearing in issue 56, this towering Soviet giant initially clashed with the heroines before officially joining the Global Intelligence Network's payroll alongside his brilliant partner, Savant. He generously supplied the covert sisterhood with uncompromising, heavy-hitting physical muscle. Beyond just brute strength, Kriote offered a surprisingly wholesome emotional core, fueled exclusively by his absolute, unwavering devotion to Savant. Sadly, that profound loyalty meant absolutely nothing to to editorial. When later multiversal reboots aggressively cherry-picked Savant to join various Task Force X iterations, executives completely abandoned the Russian powerhouse, splitting up this legendary partnership and carelessly locking the Enforcer inside the continuity vault fundamentally stripped the franchise of an immensely entertaining, brutally effective combatant. Discarding such a unique asset senselessly removed a fantastic layer of international flavor from their clandestine Black Ops missions, permanently erasing a beloved muscle-bound staple forever. This reckless editorial choice perfectly illustrates how modern comic publishers constantly prioritize cheap synergy over compelling storytelling. At number 5 is the formidable Onyx Adams. As highly trained former League of Assassins elite who bravely defected to become a dedicated vigilante, Onyx quickly evolved into one of the absolute most trusted field operatives throughout the classic publishing era. She possessed unparalleled martial arts supremacy and consistently served as a hardened, lethal asset whenever standard clean heroics simply were not enough to stop global threats. Unfortunately, the devastating Flashpoint timeline fracture swallowed this incredible warrior whole. For well over a decade, DC completely ignored her deep, established ties to the clandestine Birds of Prey network. Discarding a beautifully grounded urban defector of her elite caliber represents a massive industry failure. This completely senseless editorial decision tragically left the modern covert squad operating without one of its most capable, uncompromising enforcers, permanently erasing a brilliant tactical asset who flawlessly executed the gritty, necessary stealth missions that the primary trinity almost always avoided. Her absence is a constant reminder of how easily legendary characters can be tossed aside by executives. At number 4 is Mary Turner. Introduced in Batgirl issue 9 during the massive Night of the Owls crossover event, Mary Turner eventually joined the roster as a terrifying former Court of Owls Talon, biologically enhanced, heavily scarred, and completely mute. Strix functioned as the squad's ultimate stealth assassin. Taking her in, the operatives embarked on a touching journey to teach this living weapon how to embrace her lost humanity. But the moment subsequent publishing initiatives prioritized classic lore, decision-makers quietly locked this breakout character inside an inescapable continuity vault. Despite possessing a striking visual design and substantial fan support, the publisher entirely ignored her, carelessly discarding a beautifully crafted found family dynamic. This short-sighted editorial mandate threw away a phenomenal redemption arc. Worse still, Mary's inability to vocalize forced creators to rely heavily upon brilliant physical comedy and masterful visual storytelling. By erasing Strix, the franchise surrendered a silent, deadly precision that remains tragically absent from contemporary, overly dialogue-heavy iterations of the legendary espionage network. This character deserved much better than being tossed aside for the sake of cheap, nostalgic reboot gimmicks. We are down to our final 3, and these unceremonious deletions left massive tactical holes in the roster that DC has never managed to fill. Keep watching to discover an indestructible combatant, the ultimate master of disguise, and a telekinetic wildcard who were all permanently scrubbed from the canon. At number 3 is Sonia Sato. Joining the Covert Network in issue 100, Sonia Sato delivered unparalleled elite hand-to-hand combat supremacy. As a fiercely aggressive martial artist, Judo Master utilized a specialized metahuman aversion field that actively repelled incoming physical strikes, effectively transforming her into an indestructible frontline tank during intense skirmishes. Like so many others, this phenomenal combatant was turned into a tragic casualty of the 2011 universe-wide timeline reboot. The publisher aggressively purged her entire operational history with the renowned espionage group. Aside from a handful of meaningless, disconnected background cameos in subsequent publications, her prominent status as the lead brawler was permanently obliterated from the official canon. This careless deletion destroyed a wonderfully quiet, stoic counterbalance to the notoriously loud, aggressive personalities of her veteran teammates. Beyond that, her heavily defensive capabilities empowered illustrators and scripters to design exceptionally inventive combat choreography. Modern iterations of the Elite Strike Force severely lack this distinct tactical advantage and visual flair. It remains incredibly frustrating that corporate executives chose to permanently bury such a phenomenally unique covert operative. At number 2 is Cindy Reynolds. Cindy Reynolds integrated into the organization's active field missions near the 92nd installment, possessing the remarkable talent to project horrifying phantoms, weave intricate mirages, and seamlessly camouflage herself, she operated as an indispensable asset for an intelligence ring combating escalating global terrorism. Then came the catastrophic 2011 continuity fracture, an event that completely annihilated her established background. Instead of retaining her grounded role as a premier infiltration specialist, decision-makers drastically reimagined her as a dimensional runaway held captive in the Vibe comic series, obliterating her ties to the Sisterhood. This sweeping alteration betrayed the fundamental espionage premise of the title. This unit is supposed to run clandestine black ops, yet the corporate deliberately removed their absolute best master of disguise. Deprived of Cindy's extraordinary deceptive talents, contemporary rosters are frequently forced to fall back on generic, unimaginative physical combat. Such a shift severely undermines the intellectual, shadowy atmosphere that originally defined the beloved property's core covert identity. By discarding her, the publisher threw away a phenomenal character who desperately deserved a much better fate. At number 1 is Benjamin Reyes. Recruited during the 13th issue of the third volume, Benjamin Reyes introduced a highly unusual dynamic to the primary squad. As a former government agent armed with formidable psychokinetic abilities, Condor offered immense battlefield crowd control while supplying a rare, functional masculine perspective. His abrasive personality naturally clashed with his superiors, eventually igniting a rather chaotic romantic entanglement with the lead Sonic Screamer. That dynamic didn't last. Once company-wide restructuring prioritized rekindling classic legacy romances, this fascinating newcomer was immediately swept away. Instead of concluding his narrative organically, executives deliberately buried his existence, ensuring his contributions were entirely overwritten by an adjusting multiverse. Discarding this telekinetic powerhouse demonstrated a frustrating corporate preference for instantaneous blank slates over satisfying character resolutions. Although men seldom join this specific sisterhood, Benjamin meshed flawlessly with their beautifully dysfunctional aesthetic, and his sudden disappearance wasted an incredibly abrasive combatant who generated phenomenal friction for the Vigilante network. This careless editorial choice completely ruined a fantastic character who brought brilliant tension to the beloved series. These forgotten birds of prey deserve another chance. Comment who should return, press the subscribe now, and turn on notifications for more DC content.